Hi everybody, I'm Gavin and I am the British Bookworm. So today I'm doing a really quick review for the book that I've just read this week. Another book I've read this week because I'm running to the gym. It's pissing it down outside in the UK and I'm going to go to a Pure Gym to do a workout. So today I'm reading one of my favourite series on a book series that it's one of my favourite ones I've ever had, and it's basically Bruce Lee's legacy. So it's the wrong order. I read book 3 of his 4 series. So this is the book I'm reviewing today really quickly. Bruce Lee's Fighting Methods, Skills and Techniques by Bruce Lee. So Bruce Lee doesn't need no introduction by nobody, and I won't do that. But the beautiful thing about the book series, this is the third one, so I'm going to be specific to the third book. But the good thing about it is the book series, the 4 books that come with the series, is it gets across Bruce Lee's mentality and his ideas for combat in the book, and how it shows how much ahead of his time he really truly was. I've bought pretty much all of the books out there on Bruce Lee and read a lot of them. I've certainly read a lot of them anyway. Bruce Lee's fighting method goes into some of the basics of the basic Jeet Kune Do style. So Bruce Lee did Wing Chun for, some people say 10 years, some people say 5 years, whatever. But basically he really put himself into Wing Chun when he was a young man. And he was trained by what's considered, or who is considered, the ultimate legend man at the time, who was like the master of Wing Chun. But through numerous reasons, through his direct experience in fighting other people, he realised that Wing Chun was not as effective as it was being taught and showed to him. And he became disillusioned after a fight when he was over in America. But he created his own system. Now, he didn't want to name his system Jeet Kune Do because he felt like as soon as you named it, then it becomes something that's solid and solidifies, and people then will say, well, that's Bruce Lee style, where really Bruce Lee style was a total open idea of combat fighting. Now, the book series and this third book discusses his lead punch. It discusses concepts of bobbing, weaving, slipping, advancing, retreating, distance appreciation on your opponent. It discusses the side kick to the shin, the lead hook kick, the spinning thrust kick, or the spinning kick, the heel kick. It discusses parries and sparring. But it's one of the reasons why I like the very simple series. It only take a few hours to read each one, and the reason why I like Bruce Lee's Fighting Methods book series is it does encompass a very solid foundation of his basic formula to fighting, where he tries to find a system within the chaos of fighting, but understanding that you can't be regimented into ideas of what fighting is going to be, but you can try and work out parameters that improve your fighting style. So for example, the immovable elbow that is in Wing Chun, which a lot of martial artists don't really understand and use from other styles. But if you play with the immovable elbow concept in sparring, even with a boxer, it can be quite a disharmonizing experience when someone is applying it to you and you're not quite sure what they're doing, and yet you are struggling to, say, hit the person as you would somebody else who wasn't using that immovable elbow concept. And other factors, but it's a really good book. I would recommend the Bruce Lee series to any martial artist, but I'm specifically reviewing this one and what the book is covering. And so it basically works off Bruce Lee's lead punch, his lead fist, and mentions sort of some combat combinations, so side kick, dummy to lead hook. Discusses feints, some basic feints. So it's a really nice book, very easy to read, and one that you can kind of emerge or apply into your own system of combat. Whatever style you are already kind of learning, you can sort of apply to some degree. I will say this though, like he had says in the book, in my own personal experience, it takes a huge amount of time to get good at one technique, and you've got to understand that. So every combat technique requires a massive amount of time and practice to be able to truly apply it effectively. For most people, like myself, I have to spend an enormous amount of time to get slightly proficient at a technique. And then there's other guys who could come along and punch 10 times harder than me without hardly any training. That's just life. But Bruce Lee's fighting system really gets the kind of heart of what he was about and discusses his methodology of combat fighting, about lines of attack. It doesn't go into attack by drawing, and it does actually mention that in this book, but it's more interested. His other books in the series discuss a bit more about that. But it's a straight line method, straight kick, straight side kick, straight up face to the face, straight cross. Discusses a bit about Chi Sao and the centre line, punching down the centre line, punching in front of your nose, which is incredibly important in fighting, which a lot of people don't apply. Trying to dominate the centre line, as I said, through attack. Attack is the ultimate defence, and tricks within tactics, placing your foot in front of your opponent's foot, so they can't use that foot for kicking. You very rarely see that in UFC. This guy was very much ahead of his time. If he was put into, in his prime, brought into the UFC today and gave him, like Bruce once said, if you give him a couple of years to train, he would be terrified. He would decimate his weight division for sure. He's somebody who basically went in 1000% into what he did, and that's why he was so incredible to all his fans. That's why he was such a legend and such an incredible martial artist. On a side note to Bruce Lee's book, the book review of this book, obviously Bruce Lee was a flawed individual, and I don't ever shy away from that, and the kind of people that are his fanboys, as much as I am a fanboy, but those who fanboy him don't want to admit that, you know, there were bad sides to Bruce Lee. There were things that, you know, now today would not have got away with. He would have been definitely checked by some martial artists out there today. What he did at his time, he was well ahead of his time, but he could not do it today. But the ironic thing is, a large percentage of what is martial arts today is due to what he did in the 60s. So we've got all, as massive martial art fans, we've all got to be truly grateful to Bruce Lee's legacy, because he really advanced martial arts in a way I think he, you know, I feel he did anyway. I might be wrong, you might have a different view. But this book is a nice compilation to get his 4 books. I'm going to review each one as I read them, but this one, as I said, is specific to the straight lead fist, straight side kick, spinning thrust kick with your left leg. Obviously he's in the unorthodox stance, right lead, and it's a very interesting part of the puzzle. One book is like a piece of a puzzle, and when you start sparring, if you buy this and you really embrace the concepts in your mind, and you go and spar with somebody, even if you've never done martial arts, if you can apply the concepts and drill some of the moves, you're going to have a slight more of an advantage than you would if you had never done anything. You're going to have a concept of distancing, just being slightly out of range, and stance, positioning and movement. But I've got to say one thing, you've got to buy all 4 books. You can't just buy this and make sense with this. If you are going to read this, you need to read the other 3 books in the series, because you can't, even though it will give you some things to work with or in to train, you certainly aren't going to gain a well-rounded fight style with just one book. So you'd have to practice it with friends, family, in a club, in a Jeet Kune Do club, in a martial arts school. But the main emphasis I would take from this book and all of his books is you've got to really work on specific techniques and make them techniques your own. Really get into some techniques and not try to learn thousands. Just learn a set core of techniques. 5, 10, 15 or 20 really good techniques that you just basically spend hours of drilling and training on different levels, different ways. Bruce Lee's sidekick was phenomenal because he drilled the shit out of it. His Bruce Lee's lead punch was phenomenal. His finger jab was phenomenal because he trained it to death. So that's my book review. Oh, it gets a 5 out of 5. I mean, in all honesty, I probably would score it less than that if I wasn't such a massive fan. But it gets a 5 out of 5 only in context to the other 3 that come with it. On its own, it wouldn't get a 5, it would get more like a 2. So you really do need to buy all 4 to make sense of the third one in the series. But I won't review the series, but I've got to say that it really does encompass the core values of Bruce Lee's martial art fighting style. And it's the poetry's in it, there's poems in it which I love in the series, there's poetry in it. Skill in kicking. The kick is used as the initial defense against an attack. Because it is the best arsenal launched from a far back, the kick is a valuable asset against a skilled fighter whose tactics you can't upset, and he knows when to counter. Skill in kicking does come about when you practice real hard, and this kind of drill you can tout as it will keep away the lard. And that means it's extremely hard training when you do a lot of leg work. Let me find another one and then I'm going to go. Skill in movement. Finesse in movement is not innate. What a true statement. Very few people are naturally good at moving with finesse. It has to be learned like any other skill. Practice you must, or it will deteriorate. Again, I'm in that position now. If you don't train all the time, you deteriorate fast. Like any other trade, you have to drill. Learn to move with a shuffle of your feet and don't despair if you feel quite awkward. Soon you'll be a master of deceit, especially when moving backward and forward. Train, train, train with great determination and you'll be on top at your first confrontation. So Bruce Lee, get his 4 books. I'm going to review each one, but this one I did kind of say what it was emphasising. Weaving, parrying, leg positioning in, forward and backward advance, side kick, lead, fist, left cross. The other books cover the merges into a system. So once you've read all 4 and you start practicing and drilling, you get some ideas of the concepts that Jeet Kune Do or Bruce Lee had, rather than Jeet Kune Do, because Bruce Lee was not a fanboy. It was like he understood the limitations of Jeet Kune Do. But as soon as you name a martial art, it becomes a foundational style. You must have an idea. Whatever works, works. You do what you have to do to win. And that was Bruce Lee's ultimate ethos. So if you've liked this video, give me a like, subscribe, and I try my best to get across the basics. It's a very basic book, but it's got enough basics that if you really put on your head, it will help you as you progress as a martial artist or a boxer. Remember, boxing is fucking amazing. Really good boxers, most martial artists would really struggle with, because the way martial arts train is totally different to boxing. Boxing has a massive advantage because of the mindset and the real contact that a lot of boxing, even in sparring, a lot of martial artists could really learn a lot from boxing. And Bruce Lee had massive respect for boxing. So don't be disillusioned if you do martial arts. If you come against the boxer, remember, boxing is where it's really at in some ways. But and you have to be really effing good at kicks to keep a boxer away as well. So remember that. Right, that's the end of this video. Give me a like, subscribe. Are you a big Bruce Lee fan like me? Who do you think could beat Bruce Lee in his prime? Similar weight category. Any other time in martial arts? Jackie Chan, could he beat him in a real fight? What do you think? See you later, everybody.